Hi there. Welcome back to our series, The 4 Steps to Sustaining Improvement in Healthcare. Let's jump into step 3. Make it easy for the frontline to know what to do. So every organization has different documents, resources, and references that guide clinical practice. We don't all call them the same thing, but they essentially fall into 6 categories, which I call the 6 P's of practice. These are practice guidelines, policies and procedures, protocols and order sets, patient education material, patient care documentation, and professional development. So think about all such references that you might have in your organization. How many do you have? Where are they? Can the frontline easily find them? Chances are, if you're like most organizations, the number is overwhelming, and your frontline clinicians likely don't even know that many of them exist. And even though most hospitals have adopted some kind of electronic policy and procedure management system, searching for specific documents and guidelines is rarely easy. None of the systems on the market have the algorithmic power of Google. So when you search for a keyword, like restraints for example, you get every document that has that word in it. Most people won't work that hard to find out this information. And so they rely on the collective knowledge of the team to know what to do. Unfortunately, his knowledge is not always accurate. And so, organizational expectations are often not followed. Now, I'd like to share 2 strategies with you that you can implement to make it easier for your frontline to know what to do. The first strategy is to 5S your 6 Ps. Now, many of you will recognize that 5S is a lean term, but if you're not familiar with lean terminology, essentially, it just means to organize. Now, as with each of the 4 steps, this begins with an assessment of where you are. The easiest way to do this is to follow the same holistic approach that we discussed in step 2 and focus on patient populations. If you were a clinician caring for a patient with X problem, how many of the 6 Ps are there that guide care for this patient across your entire organization? Are they all consistent and evidence-based? Are there multiple documents that conflict with each other? Are your policies easily understandable? Or are they written in regulatory or legal language that's confusing to the people who actually need to use them? Are all of your protocols built into the EMR, or are some embedded in a policy somewhere? Are there clear expectations of which patient education materials should be used, and are they easily accessible? And how many different computer-based learning modules do your clinicians have to complete? And how often is that content replicated or inconsistent in other modules because they're written by different authors? I think you get my drift, and I hope that you're beginning to get a picture of how complex the care environment has become. No wonder our clinicians are burning out. Once you have a handle on what your current state is, then you can have your improvement teams work to combine, clarify, or eliminate as many of these references as possible. And then develop a standardized checklist for your improvement teams so that moving forward, all process changes take any of the related 6 Ps into consideration. Now, the second strategy that makes it easier for your frontline to know what to do is to clarify the difference between communication and education in your organization. These are not the same thing. And very often improvement teams think that education is the answer to everything. But unless you're truly trying to change behavior, then you just need to communicate, not educate. Develop a consistent, standardized process for both of these tactics. If you're communicating, make sure that everyone is in agreement about how information is disseminated. You might use newsletters, huddle boards, intranet communication, and so on. But the important thing is that the communication methods are consistent so that the frontline can easily find them and know what's expected of them. And then, make sure you have a standardized process for education. Start with a focus on the needs of adult learners, who typically don't respond well to PowerPoint modules. And then establish a curriculum that begins with orientation, consistently follows through to competency validation, and can be modified to include necessary, ongoing, continuing education. Layering on computer-based modules does not make learning happen. It just makes clinicians crazy and encourages them to cheat. Like many of you, I've walked into a care team station and found a completed printed out test that was sitting on the desk that everybody used to complete their required modules. Needless to say, learning didn't really occur. Now, I know that this is a lot of information, But again, I hope it's been helpful, and I encourage you to reach out to us if we can help you to better organize the 6 Ps in your organization or to create consistent education and communication processes so that you can make it easier for your frontline to know what to do. You can schedule a call through our website. So let's move on to the last of the 4 steps to sustain improvement. Empower your leaders to effectively manage change.